Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to talk to you about what's on my July 2023 TBR. It has been a very busy summer for me thus far, and it looks like it's going to continue being busy, but even so, I still would like to get a lot of reading done. I'm just overly ambitious like that, so I'm putting a bunch of books on my TBR and hoping that I can get to all of them. Let's start by going through all the fiction books first. This first one I'm going to talk about, it just called to me. Fittingly, it's called We Are Called to Rise by Laura McBride. This is a debut novel set in Las Vegas, and it's told from 4 different perspectives. It explores the idea of strangers rising to the challenge of caring for one another. And that idea of strangers finding community, caring for each other, combined with it being set in a hot place, which I always like to read about during the summer months. I don't know, July just felt like the right time to read this one. My next fiction pick for the month of July is one that just very recently entered my collection. It is a brand new release from a small press called Nothing Everything by Virginia Montanez. The main character of this novel is a YA author and a mother. She's navigating a divorce when her one-time childhood nemesis re-enters her life. This author, Virginia Montanez, is actually a local Pittsburgh personality. I got my copy when I went to her book launch party. And I decided when I brought this book home that I'm way too excited to read this to just put it on my sky-high physical TBR pile, only to be remembered years later. I want to read this one now. So I just decided to put it on my July TBR. I also just very recently got a copy of A Theater for Dreamers by Polly Sampson. Just showed it off in my latest book haul. This is one that the Storygraph app had recommended to me. If you don't know this already, I'm trying to read a handful of their recommendations this year to get a sense of how good those recommendations are, and they suggested this one to me. This is set in 1960 on a Greek island. We follow a young girl as she's drawn into a group of artists. And for a number of reasons that I laid out in that book haul video, which I will link for you in the description box and up in the cards, I have a really good feeling about this one. Then the last novel I'm looking to read in July is called The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak, which I just realized is my second pick of the month set on the Mediterranean Sea, possibly giving away how desperately I want to visit. This novel deals with the long-lasting effects of the Turkish invasion of the island of Cyprus. That invasion happened back in the mid-1970s, and apparently this novel is narrated by a fig tree. This one came highly recommended by a viewer who thoroughly convinced me to give this author another try after I just wasn't blown away by The Architect's Apprentice, another one of her novels. I'm really hoping that reading this novel will make me a fan of the author. But now on to nonfiction. And just like with my fiction selections, I'm trying to deliberately select books that I know I'm going to be in the mood for. I'm trying to meet myself where I'm at. And where I'm at presently is neck deep in the WNBA season. In fact, I've not been reading as much because I've spent most nights glued to these games. They are so much fun. I went to 2 games in June and had a blast. So instead of making myself feel bad for that, for choosing to watch basketball over reading some nights, I'm just going to lean in. So I am putting Hoop Muses by Kate Fagan on my July TBR. This just came out earlier this year. It is an illustrated, high-level history of women's basketball. And I do imagine that some of this I will already know because I feel like I've been inhaling everything women's basketball over the past couple of years, but I know some of this will be new to me, and I can't wait. But then, to focus on my 23 nonfiction books I want to read in 2023 list, this upcoming month I will be reading Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. This is the memoir of the one-time host of The Daily Show, in which he discusses his upbringing in South Africa, amongst other things. I found this hard copy for $1 at a library book sale, so I could not pass that up. But I promise you, I heard all of you who highly recommended the audiobook version of this one, since he narrates it himself. I'm going to do my best to get myself a copy of that, and if I do so, then I'll just follow along in this hard copy. The other book from my 2023 nonfiction list that I'm going to be reading in July is An Immense World by Ed Yong. This is a book all about animal sensory perception and how it opens up a whole new world to them that we as humans just physically cannot experience. You would not even believe the rave reviews I've seen people give this one. Everyone loves it. And I mean everyone. Do you know how rare that is, that everyone loves a single book? I have not seen a single person dislike this one on BookTube or elsewhere. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be joining their ranks here very shortly, especially because this author's last book, called I Contain Multitudes, it was all about microbes. The way I geeked out when I read that one, it just absolutely delighted me. It's the kind of book that I needed to tell everyone about. I gave it its own review here on this channel. I loved it. So consider this a 5-star prediction. But because I can apparently never get enough books on animals, and also because it's currently the summer, Wild Horses of the Summer Sun by Tori Bilski also seemed like a logical pick for the month of July. This is a memoir in which the author discusses her experiences meeting up with a group of women in Iceland every single summer when they would ride the native horses of the island. I'm really curious to see how this one is. And then lastly, for my July TBR, I've decided to select an early 2023 release. It was actually one of my most anticipated releases of the early year, and that's The Curse of the Marquis de Sade by Joel Warner. And this book apparently tells 2 different stories. The first story is of the writing of one of the most infamous manuscripts of all time. And then the second story is about how that manuscript changed hands over the years. And apparently that second story involves a con artist allegedly ripping off rich people, which I will admit is a niche interest of mine. Fake art, fake fancy wine, I just can't get enough. So I think this book is going to be scandalous and just absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to read it. Now, normally, this is the part of the TBR video in which I would pick my random book off of my TBR to read during the month of July. But honestly, there are still a lot of books from my June TBR and prior months even before that, those TBRs, that I am still trying to get through. So between these 9 books, all of those prior books, and then everything I have planned during the month of July, I think I have enough on my plate already, so I'm just going to skip my random pick for July. Hopefully I will be able to pick that practice back up in August, as long as I feel like I'm in a decent spot with all of my reading. But in the meantime, if you've read any of the books I've spoken about today, if you want to read them, or if you want to talk about anything else, like the WNBA, for instance, always happy to talk about that, I would love to chat with you down in the comment section below. All the books that I did talk about today will be linked for you in the description box below. They are there for your clicking convenience. And at the bottom of that exact same description box, you'll see links to everywhere you can find me around the internet, like Goodreads, Instagram, the Story Graph, all the places I'm the most active, in case you want to keep up with what I'm reading and what I'm doing right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.